Recording in progress.
Okay, it is 6:33 p.m. Welcome to the April 22nd, 2026 Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. This is a hybrid meeting with commissioners, city staff, and city council and members of the public participating at the Aralaga Family Recreation Center in accordance with public health guidelines for in-person meetings and members of the public participating remotely. I would first like to introduce the commissioners and staff present. We have Commissioner Yongban Chunyu. We have Commissioner Kevin Dawkins. Vice Chair Joseph Grass. Myself, Chair Wanman Lee. Commissioner Shilpa Patel. And Commissioner Justin Van. Staff present includes Library and Community Services Director Nick Shegda, Management Analyst Ashley Dixon. I just want to take a brief pause and welcome Library and Community Services, or welcome Nick Shegda as the new Library and Community Services Director. So congratulations.
My best. And just to welcome Councilmember Combs, who is here. He's our liaison.
Ashley will be helping facilitate the meeting today. Ashley, will you please take a moment and provide instructions to the commission and members of the public on how the meeting will proceed?
Thank you, Chair. For members of the public who are attending this meeting virtually and wish to provide public comment, after the chair calls for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, please engage the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. For those who are calling in from a landline or cell phone, please press *9 to raise your virtual hand. For members of the public attending in person, there are speaker cards available on the table. Please complete one and turn it in to staff before public comment is called for the item you wish to speak on. If there are a large number of public commenters, the time limit may be adjusted by the chair in order to allow everyone a chance to comment. When your turn for public comment has arrived, staff will unmute you. And with that, I'll turn the meeting to the chair.
Under public comment, public may address the commission on any subject not listed on the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once under public comment for a limit of 3 minutes. Please clearly state your name and address or political jurisdiction in which you live. The commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, the commission cannot respond to non-agenda issues brought up under public comment other than to provide general information. Ashley, do we have any public comments?
Are there any public comments for items not listed on the agenda? None.
Okay, moving on to the first item, presentation by the San Jose Conservation Corps, Bedwell Bayfront Park Ranger Services, giving their first 90-day update. Here to give the presentation is Jonathan Saravia, is that correct? Yeah. And Darlene Padilla.
Yes.
Okay. From the San Jose Conservation Corps.
Takes a while, Darlene.
That's okay.
There we go.
All right, first of all, I want to say thank you to Nick, Harrison, Doug, and Ashley and Tricia. Ever since we began this partnership, it seems to have been rolling out pretty smoothly. We are the San Jose Conservation Corps. In case you don't know us, the way this meeting is gonna go, this presentation is gonna go is I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about the history, the project goal of the program, the Ranger Services at Bedwell Bayfront Park, get into like the main duties, and just a little bit more about our organization as well. So hoping the video works. We're gonna start off by showing a video, it's a video about the San Jose Conservation Corps, just so you guys get to know a little bit about who we are and what we do. Okay, we are a non-profit organization. We employ young adults that range in ages from 17 to 27. We basically help them with their professional, academic, and personal life. in order for them to be successful. But I'll let the video play and hopefully it doesn't give us any issues.
You turn down your hand. I can turn up the volume on here. Sorry, should practice. Working. Turn down the TV. Okay.
Turn up my volume on my end. I should be in people hear an echo.
There you go.
You have any ideas, Ashton?
Speak the video play. I'll just kind of give a little bit more about what we do. So like I said, we are the San Jose Conservation Corps. We employ young adults that ranges in ages from 17 to 27. Like I said, we're basically here to help their personal, academic and professional life. Within our organization, we have multiple departments. We have zero waste, which is basically our recycling department. We recycle old mattresses, tires, e-waste, food, the list just goes on and on. We, Darlene and myself are the natural resources department. I am the operations manager and Darlene is the natural resources director. And basically the type of work that we do is fire threat reduction, litter abatement, invasive species removal, anything that has to do with basically the environment. We have multiple departments. We have core member development that assists our core members with transitioning now. We also have support services that assist with core members with housing, right? Some of our core members, we refer to them as core members, are also students. They are dual enrolled, meaning that some of them are in the process of getting their diploma with us through our charter school, but also some of them are not dual enrolled. They work the 5 days out of the week. So that's basically, there's way more than we do, but I'll leave it at that. The two field sites, the field site supervisor, who is providing the ranger services at Bayfront Bayfront Park, is Isaiah Barrera. And then the core member that accompanies him is Anthony No. We also have another field site supervisor, ranger, his name is Daniel Davey, and he's kind of like the backup whenever Isaiah is out as well. All right, so the project goal for the Bayfront Ranger program is designed to ensure the safety, cleanliness, and accessibility of Bayfront Bayfront Park while providing environmental stewardship and public engagement. I would say the biggest out of this is the environmental stewardship and public engagement. It's kind of what we've centered and focused our attention on with this program. Our service hours change throughout the months, obviously because of the seasons. Right now, obviously, we were in October to April when we started, and we were doing Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and providing services to the park 5 days out of the week. However, for May through September now, it's gonna change. We're actually gonna be doing 6 days. For May through September, we're gonna be doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we're actually gonna be at the park for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 hours, and then the other 2 days, we're gonna be there 5 hours. And then also, we're gonna be at the park present during holidays. It's gonna be a selected holidays, but I usually work with Harrison, he provides me what holidays they're gonna want us to be at the park. Our main scope of work is patrol and park presence, right? We wanna make sure we have patrol in recreational areas. We wanna make sure we have patrol in the trails or in the areas where people might tend to hide. Public education and community engagement also is important, super crucial, like I said. For public education and community engagement, we wanna make sure that our our rangers are out there letting the public know the safety rules, right? Any environmental stewardship, so whether it's the wildlife there, being able to let them know, hey, we have like coyotes here, you know, we have this type of bird, just kind of giving the community a bit of a background, right? And knowledge. Safety first aids and fire response, this one is more maybe looking out for the unhoused population. We have found not active encampments, but we have seen abandoned encampments in certain areas where it's hidden, usually where it's overgrown vegetation. Policy and code enforcement, basically enforcing the rules of the park, whether it's no dogs on the leash, whether it's you know, no fires, no smoking, whatever the rule is. Maintenance and environmental care, changing some trash bags, doing a minor litter around the trails. And then reporting and coordination, we report any emergencies, right? If PD had to be called, we also do metrics as well. How many cars were at the park that day, how many people were at the park that day, or just, you know, whatever it is that we have to report. We're actually gonna touch more basis on that on one of our other slides. The truck that you guys see there, sorry. The truck that you guys see there is the actual truck that was purchased for the park as well. It's like the actual vendor. It actually brought it out here today.
So measuring performance, kind of like what Jonathan was talking about, we have something called Cornet. And in Cornet is something that I schedule out in advance with the supervisor that allows us to track some of the information that we want to track. For example, how many vehicles were present, how many people did we engage? Did we have to report anything to 911? Did we have any challenges when closing up the gate? Did we leave any vehicles inside? So that hopefully that, you know, doesn't happen. It is one of our challenges. But also in this measures, we're able to track any of the weather, able to track just anything we want. With Cornet, it's a data system that we've transitioned to that helps us do any of our JHA forms as well to ensure that the supervisor is going over like these topics with the board member, which is Anthony. What is really cool about this is that we, you know, historically have always had something called Core IQ. And when we stopped using that, we went back kind of old school and started using paper. And so with this program, we wanted to ensure that all of the metrics were being able to be captured. And this is where Isaias and Anthony are also able to capture like before and after pictures of the work that was performed at the job site. So it's really unique system. We're still in the process of updating to make sure like all this information we want to capture. But so far, it's been really helpful to be able to track the before and after pictures and all the information that we want to collect.
Yeah, for the metrics also as well, we do meet monthly with Nick Harrison and the team and provide them a monthly report as well as the schedule for the park during that month. So for just trusted partners and projects that we work with, we do a lot of work with Caltrans, Save the Bay, who's also stationed, does work at Bedwell Bayfront, I don't know if they're stationed there. Grassroots Ecology, City of San Jose, Ben Open Space, Santa Clara County Parks and Roads and Airports. I'm gonna see if I could get your guys' emails and we'll share that video, just so you get more of an understanding of it. We do a lot, but it's really difficult to explain it all. But we've worked in multiple projects such as fire fuel reduction, invasive species removal, litter abatement, bioretention, planting, irrigation. The list just goes on and on. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Ashley, are there any public comments on this item?
Are there any public comments on item D1? None.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed and the item is open for commission discussion.
I've got a question. Is someplace online where you can find your log of status reports that you were just showed on the screen? Are they online somewhere?
They are on Coordinate, which is our data tracking system, but we could share those with everyone here as long as, I'll see if I can get your emails from there.
It's an internal data system.
It's an internal data system.
Okay. I'm just curious that.
Yeah, not to the public, no.
Okay.
And we don't have like a dashboard for the word out stuff yet. Mostly they're sharing information with us and with Doug Rosa, the parks supervisor in Public Works. It's a lot of operational stuff, but we can start folding in like the park attendance statistics or some of the other statistics that might be of interest to the commission into our departmental statistics and updates section each month. Interested in that.
Yeah, because the attendance statistics are really interesting, because when we had the discussion with the friends at Bedwell, we were wondering how used the park is being, how used it is, and we won't necessarily know exactly who's there, but we'll have some idea of how used it is.
I'm curious, what has been of note since, the Ranger Park program began? You noticed, I think you mentioned there's been some abandoned encampments, but maybe you could talk about what items of concern above the ordinary, like litter on the trail.
Yeah, abandoned encampments, when I seen them was back in October when we actually did the project scope, I think it was with Doug, and Harrison. There was one towards the back end of the parking lot, it was abandoned, but the debris and the trash was there, there was some bites. But we cleaned it up already, yeah.
Okay, so if you come across debris or what have you, you guys are cleaning that up and.
If we not all debris, we come across debris as whatever we're able to haul back in our pickup, which we think is of more concern. So like, let's say like a bicycle or maybe like 2 trash bags that got picked up. But if it's like larger items where it's like, we have mattresses and couches out there, we do not bring those back. We just report it, and Harrison and either I or the supervisor in communication to see how it gets taken care of.
Gotcha, but things like water bottles or.
Yeah, the
like-
minor stuff that people throw away, our rangers do provide some services to.
Yeah, and part of their duties is to make sure they're walking the trails to ensure that everything is good. And so what Isaias and Anthony took care is a bucket, trash pickers, because they said that that's the easier way for them to be able to navigate the trails. At the beginning, we did, run into some not active encampments, but I think with having the presence there, more people are aware that, hey, we're gonna spot you, we're gonna make sure. And so we do communicate with the team from the parks, to be able to let them know about big items. In terms of vegetation, we've tried not to do any big vegetation work to be able to keep the park as it is. Only the areas where we do try to focus is definitely the bathroom area, the dump area, to make sure that that is a visible place. But as far as the park, we really just try to keep it as natural as possible. And when we do encounter big items, we do communicate with the proper team to ensure hey, this is, big items, we want to make sure that it gets picked up. So nobody thinks of the park, oh, well, there's already trash. We can, go ahead and do that. So we've noticed compared to the data that we were first collecting at the beginning to where it's at now, having the presence of Isaias, having the presence of Anthony, they're just really known to the park, to the way that they're even asking for business cards. How do I enroll? What is your program about? Why are you here? And not so much of trash and things like that. So it's been, compared to the data when we were first collecting, it's been just an amazing experience, and especially allowing us to, really take ownership of the park and provide them with education. I think is one of the biggest challenges for us when we're doing the work out there is yeah, we do the work, but why do we do the work? What's the meaning behind the work that we do? And so Isaias and Anthony have been able to really engage with the community, and they know them by meetings, which is amazing because this is something that was new to us. Obviously new to Bedwell. We just hope to extend our knowledge and experience and from where we are now to different parks. And so that's like the next step that we really want to take. All of our supervisors, and the core members that are participating in the park ranger, one of the requirements is to have their guard card. Just to ensure that, they're prepared for any situation. Obviously, our first person to call is 911 and not engage with things like that, but we really want to ensure that our supervisors and core members are well prepared for any situation that may occur during this time.
So maybe you could just provide a little bit more specifics, maybe positive and negative. You talked about there have been positive encounters, but can you just provide specific examples? Because previously it was reported like there were some folks there working on their car right by the waterway. What specific examples that can you talk about?
So I think like one of the examples, which is kind of the biggest, is just vehicles, trying to find some of the people that leave their vehicles there and making sure that, where it's time to close, we need to enforce you to get out. Yes, there is some of those situations, but we really try not to put our supervisors or members in a situation where it could, get worse. And so what we do right now is we communicate with the proper team, we send text messages, we give them calls, hey, it's difficult for us, challenges, but I don't think Isaias has had a big situation because right now we're barely transitioning to having more active days at the park. Sense of it's gonna be now instead of just doing the 5 days, we're extending our days to be able to be at the park for the 6 days, and we're extending our hours instead of being only 5, we're extending to 8 to be able to ensure to those challenges that the park is facing. That now that because Isaias and Anthony are gonna be more present at the park, try to alleviate those challenges. But to answer your question, it's mostly just, trying to find the people to exit the park. 'Cause right now, we're only closing the park. We're not opening up. And so whatever might happen in the day, we're just walking in. Right now, the crew is starting at 1 o'clock and we're leaving around 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so, Public Works has janitorial services contractors for the restrooms there, and those are the folks who are opening the park gate. And there have been some instances where people get locked in. It's become a little more of an issue recently, now that there's an obstruction near the park entrance. So there used to be space for people to drive out around the gate, and that then people who were stuck were not stuck, they would just drive out of our gate. And there have been days though where the park rangers aren't on site. The janitorial staff locks up because they're gonna lock up when it's dark, and when they leave, they're not really equipped to go and tell people to leave the park, and people have gotten stuck. So the procedure for that is there's a number, they call a police non-emergency number, and the police go out there and they have the key to open the gate. But trying to avoid that as much as possible with some improved signage. But it's a little hard if people have parked their cars and are off walking somewhere on a trail and it's getting dark and the rangers running around trying to find them, get them out of the park. So it does happen. We hope to make it more of a rare occurrence than.
And I'd say that's probably one of the biggest concerns, people getting stuck in. So our rangers actually, 30 minutes before the park is set to close, when they're driving around, they start telling people, hey, just keep in mind when the park closes 8 p.m. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. And the Conservation Corps has only been out at the park for, like 3 months now, so we're hoping to start to connect them with some of the other organizations, environmental organizations, Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park, things so that we can get maybe some more educational programs or tours or something going there. But we want them to sort of get the routine of the park down first before we started having to do some other things. So we'll be looking to talk to them about kind of making those connections and maybe expanding that a little bit.
Is there anything immediate that comes to mind, having been there, X amount of months now, that you guys want to act on or have brought to Harrison to act on?
I think what we just definitely want to push on right now is, I know it's in the contract to survey more parks. to walk the parks. And also, I think right now we're gonna start implementing bicycling on our rangers bicycle, or for our rangers to bike, to use the bike on the trail as well. There's actually an event going on this Saturday, so we're gonna, our rangers are gonna take the bike tomorrow, they're gonna bike out the area that where the event is gonna be, and just make sure it's safe. There's no hazards on the bike trail, or whatever the case is. Yeah, so definitely being able to watch over more parks and right now we're working on implementing for our rangers to do fire. Right now they only do vehicle patrol and foot patrol.
Any other comments from commissioners?
Might be nice to have these guys back, maybe in 6 months, like at the end of the summer or something, to see how it went, because it does get busier. As some days get longer, more park users, hopefully we can get some more kind of educational and programming things going. It's going in like 6 months, that's.
Yeah, I think that'd be great, and also, I don't know, Azai's schedule or his report, I forget the title. Anthony, yeah, we get them, because they seem to have direct, they're the ones, you know, boots on the ground, so it'd be great to get their perspective on it.
Yeah, I think we did plan that,
Scheduled.
No worries, yeah, for the next time,
I
yeah.
think, I think it would be just an amazing opportunity for them to be here, so they can explain what a day-to-day looks like, what are some challenges, obstacles that they've been facing, if any. And definitely share their experience of, you know, compared to what it was to where they're at now and a couple of months.
The other thing we can do is maybe try to arrange for visits to the park and like talk to Isaias and Anthony out at the park.
Yeah.
See how it's going. We can work on that.
Thank you. All right, thank you both for your presentation.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much, you guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
No, you know, it's not, I have a feeling the video was not gonna work, it's not the first time it happens.
Send me the link.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the link, it's a 5-minute video, I hope you guys get to watch it, you'll learn a lot about what we do.
Thank you.
Thanks
very much.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the next item, item E1. Preparing a report out to City Council on the Parks and Recreation Commission work plan.
Do a quick intro to this. So this is the normal cycle for commission work plans is we commission creates a work plan. Goes to the city council for approval, and then later you work on the work plan and then report out on the results of the work plan to the city council. So that usually happens in the August-September timeframe. We just thought it would be good to get you guys starting to think about it. So that you would have some time to prepare. So this is kind of the first bite at it. We have the work plan attached, and we also in the staff report have some of the accomplishments that you guys have done so far. And just giving you an opportunity to talk about it and brainstorm it to see if you have questions or how you wanna frame the discussion going into the summer and crafting the report, and also kind of getting you to think about your next year's work plan based on what you were able to accomplish this year or not accomplish this year, because that will be coming in fall as well.
Before we move on to discussion, Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any other comments on item B1? No other comment.
Okay, thank you. With that, public comment is closed and the item is open for commission discussion.
If it's helpful, to put the compiled sum of the accomplishments from the 25-26 year up there, and also just an update. The tentative date to report to council is August 11th.
So this is the presentation that we do, okay.
And Commissioner Grass, you did it.
I filled in for the chair, yeah.
Yep. But Charity has done it in the past, I remember you doing it.
Yeah,
as maybe you were vice chair when you did it.
I think it's
Yeah.
tradition.
Tradition.
I think last time we also did like a subcommittee to work on the work plan previously. Yeah,
I think not last year, but year before.
year before, yeah. What do folks think about that? I think the idea of the subcommittee was to just get a group of folks together to brainstorm about the work plan, revise it as needed, and then it just may be a more efficient process to do it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, to have a more free discussion informally, not like giant second.
Less cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is maybe bring it back next month as a regular item to creating an ad hoc subcommittee for the work plan creation.
Do that, yeah, so it's April now and then May, so we have several months, so right, so.
We're giving you a good long runway for this.
So that should be an agenda item we put on today for next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or comments on either the current work plan or accomplishments from the current work plan?
One of our goals was hosting the city council liaison.
There you are.
Now, so thank you.
Accomplish that.
I do know one of the other goals was tours, so we have to do better about that. So
Yeah,
I look forward to getting set up with the Bedwell Bayfront people.
yeah, we can put that, we can add that to the agenda. For next time.
I like the tours also.
The thing about tours is we just gotta make sure that we keep them under a forum. We can notice special meeting or a tour, it's not that big a deal, it's just a little bit of paperwork. But sometimes it's hard to get all 7 of you together for a tour, because they're usually on the weekends. So maybe what we can do is come back with like a list of the parks next time and interest and hash out some dates. And then we can sort of parcel it out that way and have, after those tours are done, the commissioners who go on the tours can report out the following meeting. Great.
Thank you. And I would like to say that all the staff presentations and reports that have been presented to us since this plan was approved have been of exceptional quality. Guys are doing great work, so great, thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Okay, yeah, folks have desire to participate in that ad hoc subcommittee, maybe think about the work plan starting now, and then we can organize a committee and move forward with that next time. Any other comments? Then moving on to the next item, which is regular business, we have item F1, approval of the March 25th, 2026 meeting minutes. Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item F1? No public comment.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed. Would any commissioner like to motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. There's a motion to approve the March 25th, 2026 meeting minutes. Commissioner Chadwick, how do you vote?
Yeah, approve.
Commissioner Dawkins, how do you vote?
Approve.
Vice Chair Grass, how do you vote?
Approve.
Chair Lee, how do you vote?
Approved.
Commissioner Patel, how do you vote?
Approved.
And Commissioner Van Buren, how do you vote?
Approved.
Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Sherman absent.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is item G1, the advisory body attendance report. Staff will provide a brief introduction on this item. Yeah.
So this is another, it's kind of a housekeeping item, it's the annual report. Is given to the city council on advisory body attendance. Just a note that there are attendance requirements for commissioners. But mostly I think the city council starts to get worried about sort of unexcused, like a string of unexcused absences, so where someone's just not showing up and not participating. Then report, sort of link back to that report with this report on the PRC attendance. And it's just offered up for your information.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item G1? No public comment.
Thank you. With that, public comment is closed and item is open for commissioner discussion.
May not be a lot to discuss, but you don't see one or two on it, so it's fun.
Any comments? Okay. Alright, will our commission be affected by anything, I guess?
It's in my experience, very rare for the city council to remove a commissioner for attendance. And certainly I think they would probably reach out to the staff liaison and talk about it first. I have not been approached by anyone on the commissioner attendance.
Sounds good. Okay, there are no other comments. Moving on to the item G2, Library and Community Services Department updates and statistics. Staff will also provide a brief presentation on this item.
Ashley handled this one since she's the one who compiles the department statistics and updates. Ashley.
That's true. I don't want to read through the whole thing. I'd just like to call out to the group, congratulations on achieving your goal for the community fund registration. Yeah, we ended with 143 participants and we didn't want to go above 150, so what could be better?
Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
I think the chances are that we'll probably get a few more folks who show up day up. They're just not gonna be guaranteed they're welcome, they're just not guaranteed a shirt and a medal, because that's kind of why we cut off registration at a certain point so that we could make sure we had enough time to order things for the participants. And keeping it at the level we did so that we weren't overwhelmed on this first effort.
And Tricia would want me to point out to you that the California Parks and Recreation Society is having some awards and a volunteer recognition dinner on May 7th. You can get tickets, I think, on Eventbrite. But they're recognizing outstanding contributors in the fields of parks and recreation, so that can include commissioners as well. So in order to let you know, you are all welcome to attend.
I think we're up for to receive a couple of awards. One was for the response from the gymnastics team and our public works team to the flooding event that we had in the gymnastics center, and how they created some new programs and kind of went on the road a bit in response to that. And then there were a couple of the members of our senior services team who, when they were making their monthly food deliveries, they delivered to folks who are homebound who can't always get into the senior centers, the donated food boxes from Second Harvest. They noticed that this participant wasn't responding like she normally did at the door. The door's ajar. They noticed that she was unresponsive and was having a medical event, and we were able to get her some help and avoid it. She didn't have a lot of contact, friends and family, and so able to avoid a much more serious problem by getting her medical attention than they did. So rightfully being recognized for that. And next year, maybe we can put forward the fun run.
And then, and just to call out a couple other attendance numbers, the Bellhaven Community Resource Fair, the attendance this year was 25% higher than last year. And this year, record-breaking number for Spring Fest, and they counted 3,000 attendees. Every time I was talking to our event person, Jen, she would say, I'm adding another class or another group for the hunt, another group. I'm like, another one in addition to, and she's like, yes, more, we're adding more. Because the demand was so high. So very nice, very successful. I hope you were able to take it for your young kids. Great.
Yeah, kudos to staff and as well as Nick for being, I forget your title that day, you were in a pink suit.
I had a time.
Yeah.
I had a hat, I guess if you have the right hat, you don't need the time.
Yeah, it's one of the highlights of the year, so thank you to staff for hosting that.
There's a little chunk of facility updates on there. We have some repairs going on the walls in the gymnasium. It'll reopen on April 27th. And then, I think that we're already open again in the first locker room. That was according to plan. And the EHCC will be closed tomorrow from 6 to noon for power testing. PG&E is gonna shut off the power and do some testing at the parking installations.
Yeah, they're energizing those. Getting those on, so that project is, which is great.
Right on time.
Yeah, it's been a squeeze out there, that's part.
I guess maybe this would be a good opportunity to briefly discuss the fun run, given that it's happening in a couple days. Are there any issues with maybe volunteer recruitment or, I don't know, like street closings that should be of note?
All of it's going really well. I mean, it's the first time, so we don't have the groove worn as deeply as we do for like some of the downtown events. Like Halloween Club Parade or 4th of July parade, we kind of have that routine down pretty good now. This is the first time doing some street closures, but because they're relatively limited and are only going to be closed for maybe a couple of hours. I know Harrison and Kate did go door to door on Terminal Avenue, which is the street in the residence that are gonna be most impacted by that. And also had connected with Meta, and with the, hotel. That's sort of adjacent to the affected area of the closures. Was talking to, Commissioner Patel before the meeting started. Letting her know that I walked the route and it took me like an hour and 15 minutes. So they're probably gonna be able to open up the streets. Sooner than I think they were saying they had it scheduled to be like noon or 1 o'clock. I think it will probably be more like 10:30 or 11 o'clock that they're able to open up the streets and let people get back. Yeah. So yeah, we're going well. I don't have any sort of stumbling blocks to report. I think we've got some volunteers, some city staff. Should be all right.
Great, yeah. Where exactly is the starting line or assembly line gonna be at the community campus?
It's gonna be in the parking lot. I think Harrison said the starting line was gonna be, so when you go in, there's a bus shelter on the left and then the driveway for, Beechwood School is on the right. I think it's sort of, as you go around that curve, I think he's planning on starting us there.
And the bus will be redirected?
Yeah, Samtrans is already aware.
Great.
I don't think there's a lot of route action. Samtrans, that type of work, that bit of it.
Any other comments by the commission? Okay, moving on to the next item, the tentative agenda calendar. We're gonna wait for it to come on the screen. So today obviously is April 22nd. Now we're looking at May 27th. which will be at the Belhaven Community Center.
Correct, we try to do a couple of meetings a year at the campus. This one would be the May meeting and then the sort of end of the year wrap up meeting. Joint meeting with the library commission in December. So we'll be sure to send reminders out, reminding people about. Change of venue, just to note that we will have the youth advisory committee giving a presentation. And a presentation from San Mateo County on Flood Park and the recent goings on there. Not sure if the playground is open at Flood Park yet. I think that was the next thing that was going to. In place.
Ashley, do we have any public comment on this item?
Are there any public comments on item G3?
Okay, thank you. With that, public comment is closed and we'll open the item for commission discussion.
So additionally, we have those two items that we were talking about earlier. We can talk about when we do the agenda planning meeting with the chair and vice chair, we put those in May, or whether we push them out to June. And that's the park visits and the forming subcommittee to work on the word plan report.
And we will be having new members join next month as well.
Yeah, you may be having the same member depending if the city council elects to reappoint Commissioner Van Buren. There's one term that's up for appointment, or one term that's ending. So the council will be appointing new commission members at the April 2018 is
Next Tuesday.
next Tuesday.
And your,
I only got a half term.
oh,
I got appointed when Kevin got appointed and when Don Evans got appointed.
oh, I'm sorry.
And some left turn. Yeah.
Yes, we
they
got
put me in the middle slot, so I got 20 months.
Interesting.
Yeah, they try to stagger the appointments, or they stagger the terms so that not everybody is turning off
Yeah.
at the same time. But what happens is if a commissioner leaves mid-term or partway through a term, they'll appoint new commissioners, but then there might not be, they don't necessarily serve a full term at the time of their
My
appointment.
term was prorated.
Prorated term, yes, good way of putting it.
Yeah, if I remember with Flood Park, the reason that they are next month instead of this month was because they wanted to get everything finished beforehand, perhaps.
Let's go, so.
There's so much activity at Flood Park now. There's barbecues, there's parties every weekend. It's great to see that park very alive.
Yeah, especially if it's closed, sort of, or partially open for big chunks of the last couple of years. That could be something, we could put that on the list and maybe talk with them next month to see if they would, if commissioners are interested in a tour of the new facilities.
Oh, yeah.
Park.
ready.
There's one pump track. There is a pump track there, yeah.
My daughter practically lives there. Yeah. The last year and a half.
Yeah. And there's, I think the last two things that they have to do are the playgrounds, the redo of the playgrounds, and then the large sports. But I'm not positive about that. I think that I have vague recollections of them maybe doing sports field stuff last summer. Find out.
Any comments from other commissioners? Or anything you would like to add to the agenda or remove potentially?
I don't, so they're finishing up, they're doing the load testing at BHCC with the power, turning on solar. I don't see a Kelly Park update on the agenda,
Okay.
because that will begin shortly, correct?
Fingers crossed, yeah, Commissioner Van Buren's talking about there's a schedule upgrade to the playing field at Kelly Park and the track at Kelly Park. It was originally scheduled to happen right after the community campus was built, but because the solar project got delayed, that pushed back the field and park, the field and track project. So I can check in with my PW colleagues and see where that is. We did, if you remember, receive some public comments about the playing fields at Kelly Park and some interest in some members of the community in discussing or having the commission discuss this project, so.
I have a question about the work plan for coming year. How do we generate like our proposed items or add new items for the work plan for coming year?
Yeah, usually that's generated in a subcommittee discussion, so if you're interested in sort of like coming up with items for the next year. There, as you saw in the earlier report, there are some items that are just kind of stuff you do. But then there are sort of special things that you want to do. And they, you know, usually go along with individual commissioner interests, but they also align with the city council's goals. Now that they've done their annual goal setting, because the whatever plan the Parks and Rec Commission comes up with then goes to the city council for review and approval. So yeah, basically you get on the subcommittee and then you can, but there will be a discussion about the work plan for the coming year.
So since we've agendized the subcommittee formation for the next meeting, can council, commission members also add items at that time, or we have to have another agenda item? She'd like to bring up items next meeting.
I think so, as long as we agendize it properly, that we're not only forming the subcommittee, but also having a study session on, I mean, we've got the study session in July right now, but if we want to. Oh, no, it's in June right now.
Oh, okay.
We could move it up if you want. I think the subcommittee being proposed was sort of on the report out, because that comes up first. So that comes up a month before the new work plan comes up.
So then it looks okay the way it is to me.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay, moving on to the next item, H1. Would any commissioner like to make a short report out on items of interest to the entire commission? I guess I don't have one, but I think one item that Ashley kindly reminds us about is reporting on individual parks within the city. So definitely gonna make an item for myself to report on Carl Clark Park, which is a park local to me that I frequent every single day. And maybe we'll submit a report on that. I don't know if folks want to volunteer as well, maybe to kind of do a report on their local park. This is something that the commission, we gave ourselves homework to do a while ago, but I don't think a report has yet been generated, so it'd be nice to do that.
They have survey form.
Yeah,
Then I have to go back and look at the video, but we may have made like a schedule, just sort of, you know, this commissioner's visited this park and so we could maybe bring that back next month or maybe in June.
I think we do it next month, because I don't think it will take too long if we've already got like an intake form to sort of handle it.
Yeah, we can kind of refresh it.
so are we just changing the process, or can I just do a report on and give a report next month on the park?
You could do both if you want, or do you want to just stick to a report?
Either, or whatever you think is best.
I think it's fine if you feel like you wanna go and visit a park and report out.
Yeah,
it's fine.
it's so easy, like, I mean, it's part of our thing, right? So I'm gonna do a quick report on my local park and just talk about the current condition and so on, so, yeah. Yeah.
Interesting this part of it, yeah, I have very young kids and we are playing on local park every day.
Great.
Yeah, so is there like a sample, a template for the report? Or is,
We haven't developed one yet.
um,
We could work on something like that if you'd like.
We can come up with suggestions when we get Chair Lee's report next month. Through questions.
Okay,
Yeah, maybe we could just
Report.
take turns and stagger it, that's yeah,
okay.
cool. Okay, any other comments about commissioner reports?
I do want to mention, actually I took the city course of I forget what it's called. It's the bird tour with Rick Morris at Bedwell Park. And it was just great. So I'd recommend it to everyone here. It's a good way to just walk around the park Rick Morris is a teacher that runs a class sponsored by the city. I signed up for the class and met a bunch of people in the morning and took a walking tour around the park and went out with my camera, and Rick's a nature photographer. And it's just great walking around the park and having him point out probably like 12 different species of birds you might not have seen if you hadn't pointed them out. So I'd recommend that class. I think just a general tour of the park is great. It's just neat if you have an expert that's been there to have someone guide you around. So just recommend that.
which park is it?
Bedwell Bayfront Park. And yeah, in the I don't know if there's the course is repeating, but it's in the city course catalog. I can't remember the name of the class.
I think if you just go to the activity guide, you can search it and find it.
Yeah, look for bird.
There's
Bedwell.
not really many birding classes. other than
Yeah.
that. Like bird, you'll probably get it pretty fast. Yeah, it's we were talking, it was very popular. So sign up for it. And we'll see if we can talk about, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about with San Jose Conservation Board and the Friends of Bedwell Bayfront Park is sort of doing maybe like a standing park tour or something. Which you wouldn't have to necessarily sign up for through the activity guide or anything, they would just do it like every third Saturday or something.
Yeah, get a posting up there or something.
Right.
Come here every Saturday at 3:30 or 10:30, meet a ranger and walk around the park, something like
Right,
that.
they've been pretty open to doing those kinds of things, as you heard tonight. It's just we've been kind of easing them in, so they got the routine, but PW says they're doing a great job so far, so. Looking to kind of open them up a little bit and some of the things that they could do that our previous rangers weren't able to do.
And the name of the class is Walking Bird Tour of Bedwell Bayfront Park, and the next one is May 12th.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
And there's another one on June 10th. And they're all a little bit different.
Any other comments? All right, with that, the meeting is adjourned at 7:30 PM.
Is everyone right?
I do want to give acknowledgement to city council or current mayor, is that right? No, former mayor. I apologize.
Mayor. Always true.
Yeah. I think I just saw you at Willow Park as well, so I don't know if you were holding court there or just taking care of your kids, but.
I have a 5-year-old, so.
Yeah.